Hi guys, it's Mrs. Millison again. Okay, we're going to talk about string methods. All right, I've got my string class already created. I cleaned it up a little bit. I just have my two statements. Okay, so string methods, whoops. These are all non-void methods, which means they all yield something. They either yield an integer, a boolean, or another string. I don't think any of them yield a double. Okay, so the first string method, and again, how do we call methods? We type the object and a dot operator and then the method name. Okay. Oh, before we do our methods, we have to look at how strings are made up. Okay. Each string is made up of multiple characters, and each character sits at an index number. Okay. So here's our characters. I'm just going to do for statement one. And I'm talking all characters, space and punctuation, okay? And then we have indexes, okay? So indexes always start at 0. Whoops. So H is index 0. The letter O is index 1. W is index 2. That space is index 3. And then so forth, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, this is going to be 10. I'm going to put some spaces here. D is 11. O is 12, and the question mark is index 13. Okay, so if I want index 9, that's going to point to the U of the word U. Index 4 is going to point to the D of the first do. Index 13 is going to point to the question mark. Okay, just don't forget indexes start at 0. H has an index of 0. Okay, so the first thing we can do, the first method is called the length. Okay, and this yields an int. Okay, so I'm just going to do all these as print statements. Okay, but we could save them as variables if we wanted to. So I'm going to take system, I'm just going to print. I want to know how long statement 1 is. Well, if I know the index goes up to 13, I know the length is 14. I know there's 14 characters in this statement. Make sure you include spaces and punctuation. So I'm simply going to say statement 1 dot operator length, and there's no parameters. There's no parameters for this method. Okay. Now we should get 14. Okay, because that's how long the statement is. Okay, I'm going to get this the whole time. Actually, I think I might comment this one out because I'm not going to use it just yet. That way I won't get that message every single time. Okay, so there, I've got the length is 14. So I could have saved this as an int variable and given it a name, you know, I don't know, statement 1 length or something like that, and used it in some other places, okay? All right, so that's our first method. Length is pretty straightforward, okay? Let's do, let's put a little note here. It's the number of characters, okay, in a string. All right, let's do the next one, which is index of. Of. Now this, I'm going to put some quotes in here because you need something. This will yield an int also, okay? So I want to know what index a specific letter or a word is, okay? So I'm going to do, I want to know what index the y is, okay? So if I put y in parentheses, oops, looking up here, it should give me a 7, right? Should be a 7 because that's the index location or the index number of y. Okay, so let's see if we get that. Oh, silly me. I just printed y. Pretty funny. Okay, let's do it correctly this time. I need statement 1 index of, oops, and then y in parentheses is my parameter. Oh my goodness. Of, okay. Totally messed that one up. All right, so I took my statement 1, which is how do you do, and I want to know what the index of the y is. So the y is index number 7. Now we should be good. It's always good to run when you're doing stuff. There we go. Okay, so the index of the letter Y from U is in 7. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, let's do another one. Let's see. Hopefully it won't mess up. Let's do statement 1, index of, let's do the word do. Okay, let's put the whole word do in there. And what this will give me, so there's my parameter, there's my close of my print statement. This should give me what? There's 2 do's. It's going to give me the index of the first one. So it should give me a 4, okay, because that is where the index where the first do starts. Okay, let's see. And indeed it did. There's my 4. Okay, good. So far, so good. What if I ask for the index of something that isn't in there, isn't in the statement? Let's do your. Whoops, need my quotes. Now, your is not in my phrase. You is, but your is not. So this should not in string. So what's this going to give me? Because it can't give me any numbers, but it's got to give me a number because it yields an int. It's going to give me a -1. So when I get a when I look for an index of something that isn't in the string, it's going to get me a -1. Okay. Now I'm going to use these things in methods and when I'm searching for stuff, when I'm doing maybe if statements. So again, we're just learning tools. We're going to start using them soon. Okay. All right, so that's my second method, index of. I've got length and index of. Third method is substring. Okay, now this is an overloaded method, which means there's 2 signatures. This one is just the starting number, okay? So if I do a substring with just a starting number, it'll give me everything from that starting number to the end of the string, okay? So let's do one of those. Let's do statement 1, substring. Now I want to start at, let's start at 11. Okay, so if I say 11 here, it should go from 11, which is the D. So I should get everything from 11 to the end. So I should get the DO and the question mark. And indeed I do. Okay. Let me write this down. This always yields a string, okay, because it's going to yield a portion of your original statement, okay, your original string, rather, okay. Let's do the overloaded one. So this is the overloaded method. So substring, it just has a different signature. So it does have a starting number, but then it has a how should I say this? An up to but not including number. Okay, it kind of looks like this from our interval notation. It includes the first number, but it goes up to, but does not include the second number. Okay, so if we do, oops. What did I have in my notes? Let's do 7, 10. So what's this going to give us? 7, 10. So it should give us 7, 8, and 9 because it will go up to 10, but it won't include 10. So I just should see the word U. Okay, and I do. Okay, so this is an overloaded method. I have multiple signatures here I can use. Okay, what if I only want a single letter? Let's say, sorry, can't find my screen. Let's say I just want the W, okay? Well, I know I have to start at index 2. Do I do 2 comma? I don't want to just do index or substring 2, because then it'll give me the W and everything after it. If I do 2, 2, I don't know what's going to happen. So I think I have to do 2 comma 3. So that'll give me just the 2, because it'll go up to but not include 3. Okay, I'm going to totally copy and paste this. So if I just do 2 comma 3, this should give me the single character at index 2, okay, which should be a W, correct? So let's run this and see. Yay, and it gave us a W, okay? All right, so that is my third method, length, index, and substring. Okay, I've got 2 more. I've got 2 more, compare to and equals. Okay. Before we talk about these, we have to understand how the computer reads characters, okay? What happens is there's a whole chart of how a computer reads a character, okay? You know, everything comes down to numbers. Actually, everything comes down to zeros and ones. But there's kind of a chart where all of the lowercase and uppercase letters are in a chart ordered from 0 to, like, I don't know, 400 or whatever. So they each have their own number, okay? They each have their own, I think it's called a Unicode number, okay? So let me do our compare to is our next method, and this yields an int, okay? So for example, so I said there's a chart of number values associated with each letter, okay, upper and lower case. Okay, so for example, the uppers are first, all the way to Z, and then the lower are second. So capital A actually is number 65. Number 66 is C, or B, C is 67, D is 68, and so forth, all the way up to Z, which is 90. And then lowercase a is 97, and then these all increment by 1, all the way up to Z, which is 122. Okay, so what compareTo does is it compares each letter, the first letter of the string, and it does the mathematical operation. It subtracts them. Okay, let me do a couple. We'll do cat and simple here. Oops. So if I wanted to compare statement 3 to statement 4, lowercase c comes before lowercase d. So it'll take 99 minus 100. Okay, let me write these out. So if I want to do statement 3, compare to statement 4, what it does, it takes the first letter of statement 3, which is a C, and it subtracts the first letter of statement 4, which is D. If I look on my chart, that's going to be like 99 minus 100, which will give me a negative 1. Now, the 1 is irrelevant. It's the fact that it's a negative, okay? So you know that cat comes before dog alphabetically, okay? That's the important thing, to know who comes first alphabetically, okay? Now, if I switched it, let me copy this. I did statement 4 compared to statement 3. Okay, now we're going to do D minus C. So now we're going to do 100 minus 99, which will equal a positive 1. Okay, the point is you want to know whether they're positive or negative. Okay, and why you guys will see this when we start doing string algorithms. Okay, when we start creating methods that we have to go through a string and check every letter, or maybe we're trying to do a spell check or something like that, okay? So just be aware of why these negative and positives are coming up and that they compare or they yield an int. Now, let's say I had another statement, and this also equals cat. So now if I compare statement 3, statement 3 to statement 5, Statement 3 and Statement 5, they have all the same letters, okay? So this should yield us a 0, okay, because they are exactly the same. And that is going to be one of the more important things that we look for. We want to know if strings are the same, okay? Because we want to know if something is equal to something else, okay? But for strings, we have to do this compare to, okay? Okay, so that's one way of deciding if something is the same. We do a compare to statement because this yields an integer, and sometimes in a method we want to end up with an integer value. Okay, another way of comparing or seeing if two statements are correct, or excuse me, are the same, is we use an equals method. Okay, and this will yield a boolean. Okay, so either true or false. Okay, so it's the same concept. I'm just going to say equals. So if I do, let's see, statement 3, equals statement 5. This equals method yields a boolean. So 3 and 5 are the same. So this should be true. Okay. And indeed it is. Okay. Now let's compare statement 3 and statement 4, because we know cat and dog are not the same. So if I compare statement 3 to statement 4, I know this is going to be false because these two are not the same. Okay, and when I can do a compare to statement, I know I'm going to get a positive or a negative number because they're not the same. Okay, so really, okay, so there's my false. So really, these last two methods are just a way for us to compare strings to see if they're the same. Okay, sometimes we want to know why they're, what's different about them. Sometimes we just want to know whether they're the same or not. So when I do compare to, I end up with an integer. Okay, and the integer of 0 means they are the same. Okay, sometimes I want to end up with a true or false. So then I'll use my equals method. Okay, so I know true means they are the same, obviously, and false means they're not the same. So it really just kind of depends on what you want as the output of your method, whether you're going to use compare to or equals. Okay, and trust me, we'll see these when we start traversing through strings and doing string algorithms, which is coming up in the next couple modules. Okay, again, we're still just learning the basics. Okay, so those are my string methods I'm going to be concerned with. Compare to and equals. I've got substring, which will help me grab a smaller segment of my larger string. I've got index of, which tells me where the character is in the whole string, starting at index 0, of course, and then length, which simply tells me how long the string is. Okay, and again, we will use all these when we get to traversing methods or traversing strings. Just remember, all the string methods, they're all non-void. They yield something. They yield ints, they yield strings, they yield booleans. Okay, great. See you next time.